Well, thank you. Welcome to day one of AWE 2021. We are right here. That's a phenomenal thing. Are you happy today with it?
Oh yeah, it's great to
Absolutely.
be out
Super
of the house.
excited. Well, quick reminders, AWE Live, download the app, use it, interact with others. There are some prizes for attendees with the most engagement, then take advantage of it. Special events, the welcome reception is this evening for all AWE participants. Make sure you have your wristband and badge with you for sure. Uh, I will give more information later on. We want to take advantage of your time. But if you are posting or tagging, use the hashtag AWE2021. And all the sessions, I'm reminding that all sessions are being recorded and will be made available for all in-person and virtual attendees on the live platform after the event. And let's thank our sponsors, the titanium and gold sponsors. We want to thank our gold sponsor for their support, Arbor XR, Care AR, Aciros Company, HP, Metamaterials, Plug XR, and a big thank you to our titanium sponsors, Niantic, Qualcomm, and Unity Technologies. Then let's start the day. We have here, the topic is how Medtronic enables their teams with AR to make work easier. Dirk Scharf is the Chief Marketing Officer and President of Reflect. Dirk is a growth and go-to-market executive in the field of emerging technologies. He has been working for more than a decade in the augmented and virtual reality space and has built a strong network of enterprises, startups, journalists, and analysts. Dirk created and executed 20-plus product launches for AR, VR, and AI solutions, and is one of the inventors of the patented augmented windows technology for the Hyperloop. That's very cool. Dirk is the author of 2 augmented reality books and writes about growth and go-to-market of SaaS and enterprise software products on his website. Please follow him, dirksharp.com. Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We have William Harding, Distinguished Technical Fellow at Medtronic. William is a Distinguished Technical Fellow with 39 years of industry experience, 23 plus years at Medtronic, Bachelor in Science in Computer Science, emphasizing electrical engineering, Master in Science in Computer Sciences, completing his PhD, emphasizing technology integration. Very important at this moment. William is the Emeritus Chair of Medtronic's Technical Fellows Organization, Emeritus Chair of the Temple Technical Guild, Vice Chair of the Work IEEE UL P2933, Clinical Internet of Things data and device interoperability with TIPPSS.
Perfect.
Author, we will ask questions later on. Author of many technical papers and books, and member of Medtronic's Advanced Technologies and Data Sciences Department, focused on technology within manufacturing and healthcare environments, which aligns with his SME emphasis on innovative vision, RF, trace technology, process automation solutions, AI, ML, AR, VR, MR, and numerous technologies related patents, trade secrets. It is a pleasure and an honor. Please
William.
welcome.
I'd like to beat that guy.
I will go down and
Sure.
please enjoy.
Thank you.
I think it'd be great to just change the title to janitor or something like that.
Yeah.
Clean up batter or something to the effect. Well, thank you everybody for welcoming us here. Dirk, I consider my partner in crime. We're always a partner and collaborator in everything. And what we're going to be doing here is we're really going to be just kind of telling a story, because a lot of people are trying to figure out how things work together. And as you go through the slides, you'll see some of this. But how do you implement? It's one thing to have a really cool tool, but as Medtronic, as the largest medical device manufacturer in the world, with diabetes, cardiac, neuro, spinal, and so on, it's one thing to just have a shell tool, but how do we really execute? And so this story really reflects no pun intended, but it's a good one, it really reflects on our need, a gap in our abilities to actually onboard new employees, to train people, to do work instructions. And in that specific area, you'll see us referencing one here, actually in Santa Clara, is our EPICS facility, which is RF ablation. That said, we recognized the need about 2 years ago now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 2 years ago. And so once we started getting together, and some of the players you see in here are Peter and as far as Daryl and their conversations, we really kind of recapped what really led to this. So as you go to the next slide, they were thinking we had a need that we needed to solve because of limited resources. We had to resolve a lot of issues relative to quality and manufacturing RF ablation. You think, RF ablation, what is that? Well, you have varicose veins, you have other things. These tools are used for this, the medical grade technology. And so with that need, we started looking around. And so from that, this is where we started saying, okay, what do we need? What resources we need? We can't just plop some solution in. And I'll offer to Derek if you like to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Derek, would you like to?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's 2 years already, right?
Yeah, amazing.
But on the other hand, because we're talking about enabling, right, it also shows that it takes that time when you want to implement something in a large enterprise, right? So often we, especially as AR companies, smaller companies, startups, we think, well, let's get that started, and let's get that started means in 2 or 3 months, but that's just not realistic.
Right.
And I think that's also something we can share today. How do we do that, and how did we enable the company, and how did we enable the operators to do their jobs easier? And I think that's a very interesting journey. So you mentioned the things already, how difficult are things like the onboarding, and we will see that also later then in a couple of other slides. I'm not an operator. Mm-hmm. When I saw the first time the instructions, and it starts with like 10 pages of warnings, and then you have little images and all of these things, and I think, wow, it must be a huge challenge for these people to really assemble devices, and I think we can have a really huge impact there and make their life easier. And I like also what Peter added that, well, we cannot see that here, right?
Oh,
the perfect storm, right? And the perfect storm, William, was then kind of accelerated by what came, and we did not expect it. We started before, right? We started in 2019,
right.
And then in the middle of our project, COVID came, and people could not go to the facilities. Many new operators were needed. So I think that was a completely new challenge. And then, William, I would like to jump to this one. We have a little bit the left one, mm-hmm. But I would like to talk a little bit about especially the right part, where we see your picture here in the middle of it, because then the game started.
Yeah.
And how we went through the pilot and the deployment, and also what that means from a timeline perspective.
Let's do that. Yeah, I like it. Excellent.
So, as said, 2019, and you can see that here in the timeline, right? If you go to the left, October 2018, it was the first time that we met, actually. And then May 2019, we had the first meeting. It's something I still remember because we met one of the trainers. And, talking about enabling, that trainer was more concerned about that we want to replace him as a trainer and bringing some fancy technology. So our first task was basically to figure out, what's the problem there? What's concerning him, and how can he make his and his colleagues' life easier? And I still have that in mind. That Khan gave us really a lot of input, and I think that was also kind of the key. Once we convinced him and we showed him that his life is much easier with that solution, then the game changed.
And what I like what you just led in there with is when you're implementing things, we often think of the solution provider or the sponsor effectively. But when you're implementing something, if you are thinking in a hospital or medical or manufacturing environment that you're the only stakeholders, you're going to fail. If you don't come up there and say, you know what, Khan, who's our supervisor, his value, his knowledge, the importance of retaining him and satisfying him, getting his voice, empathizing with his needs, again, you're going to fail. So when you start integrating new solutions, like we're even thinking about it, you got to start right from the beginning. Get the right voices, get the right understanding of the need. And as a nice compliment to Reflect, they didn't just sit back, and what Dirk, he learned later is we started around a couple months earlier doing our deep dives, and our deep dives were to vet. Medtronic, we're huge. What's the risk? Are we going to put a lot of money and time and resources into a solution provider that maybe could cause us risk? So we did an amazing amount that we don't disclose, but these guys really passed with flying colors. I always say my wife has an NSA background. It's like, yeah, we knew your background. And so in doing that, we wanted a solution partner that would take the time to learn, like Dirk did with Khan and them, and say, okay, this is the need. And not being super familiar with medical, getting in there with the workshops, getting out to the production floor, really listening to that story so that you're not going back and saying, I didn't get the right requirements, I didn't get this. And so that type of story is really the backstory that led to really this point in time.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned a super important point, right? I mean, every industry is different. You really need to understand, and I think that was the key. And we showed the framework later, all the interviews we had, talking to the people, really seeing how they do it and where they're struggling. I think that was for us the biggest learning, right? Because
totally.
we come in and we think, okay, well, we know what our technology is capable of doing, and we know what are the use cases basically, but that's often a big fail because it's just every use case is different, and you really have to listen there. And if you don't talk to the people, if you cannot convince the people, the technology is worthless. It's just a gadget.
And I think that emphasizes the need for voice of the customer.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
Well, let's go to that. That's a good point, William. So maybe before we go into the framework, was too much. William, maybe you can say a couple of words about what Medtronic is or how Medtronic is leveraging AR, and then we dive into the details.
Excellent. So in this capacity, we think about, if we can look at this from the perspective of XR, which is AR, VR, MR, mixed reality and so on, and you have a need. You're not going to say, I'm going to buy an iPad and it's going to solve all my needs. I'm not going to buy a HoloLens or a Vuzix and say it's going to solve all my needs. Look at the needs of the customer. A customer for me is the operators, production, the trainers. And when we looked at that, they're using, to give you a description, they're using a lot of microscopes. Very microscopic components are being welded and sealed together. It's very tedious. It's actually overburdening kind of their own vision. So there's a lot of fatigue in this area. And it's very manual. Well, you're thinking, well, I can't wear a HoloLens if I'm looking through a microscope. I can't use a Vuzix if I'm doing this. Great products, but you got to figure out which one's going to be best suiting your needs. And in some cases, it might be a hodgepodge of those. So this process here, they're assembling leads that are in the orders of 10 microns. Some of the little wires and aspects we put in there are very small, very hard to manipulate. How do you integrate an AR solution that's going to help somebody understand how to weld a Ttip assembly or a handle or a wire or something reliably that's going to go on a patient? And so the best thing we could come up with is like, can we represent this in digital content, digital twins, videos, stills, whatnot? So we had to come up with a solution, and we're not good at that. So we know we're good at medical devices, so hence Reflect comes in. They didn't force us down the head, one headset, one technology. They're platform agnostic, which means I could pick anything I needed. And so that was the partnership formation.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about. We have too many animations here. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the framework.
Oh,
right?
perfect.
Because that's for me key. And we will also come and show you a video so that you see the solution. But instead, we're talking about enabling. So for us, it's more important to show you how we actually did it. And the framework we built is kind of focusing especially on the onboarding part for the solution and how to activate the users, meaning how can you change the user's habits, in that case the operator's habits, to use the new solution instead of the old solution. And we all know how hard that can be. We learned it during the pandemic that you don't go to a store anymore, you don't go to the grocery store, you just buy online. You don't go to a restaurant anymore, you have delivery, right? But the pandemic forced us to do that. And if you don't have that, you need to think about what can you do? How can you change habits? How can you establish habits? And that's what we basically did with the framework. So we really looked into these 3 phases of scoping and build and test and learn and improve. We built pieces and we gave them to the operators. We had user acceptance testings and we could see where do they struggle, where do they really use it. And we could also realize, oh, wait, there are people, they already use that and they ask for it and they don't want to have these paper books anymore. They just want to use the AR solution. Now, let's figure out why is it? What was that habit changing moment there? Right. And that's kind of the onboarding, the activation, then going to also to the part of kind of, let's call it customer advocacy, right? Yeah. Where we have an internal communication and people talked about the solution and said, well, look, this is how we use it. Now you can also use that.
Exactly. And what I like about what you described there is, as you were looking at those processes and learning as a customer, as a provider for us, is learning that, and for everyone else, is our current model was, you bring a new operator in, hopefully they can get a trainer's attention. You give them, seriously, this is not exaggeration, a stack of MPIs, manufacturing process instructions. All those instructions with pictures, and not always accurate because we acquired that company. Yeah. So you had to go through it. It's like, how do I make that relevant? Because just reading through it and then throwing them on the line and saying, you're going to be producing this, was insanity. The last thing that's critical to be known is we started our workshop October 15th, and we had a goal January 1st to complete it. And if you think that sounds insane, it did to us too. But when you look at it and you hear what we did to accomplish it systematically with the right resources, it tells me it is achievable in a lot of areas.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that was the collaboration, right?
Yeah.
That was also the working with the operators, coming back to Khan, right?
Because of course.
For me, a key person, the lead trainer there who did that. Maybe, William, let's have a look at the video that the audience can see how that looks like, and then we come to what makes it special and why did we choose that approach.
And I'll give a little description as they see it. So what you're looking at right now is one of the interfaces for one of our Ttip assembly. The first part is what the operators see on an iPad Pro as an example. They're looking at the components they're going to need so they can set up their line appropriately. They have check boxes that can confirm against requirements. They can zoom these digital elements. They can make sure they got the right tweezers, the proper separators and insulators. They review all the elements of safety. They can look at the PDF documents that are associated with it so they can review that content. And as we go to the next parts, now you start to say, okay, what are my first steps? First steps are I'm going to take that Ttip portion, which is the end or diamond separators, and put it all together. What glues do I need? What tools do I need to actually guide it carefully without scratching it? And then ultimately, and that one thing backing up that you didn't catch is it had a Medtronic logo. That's kind of like our QR code. So they instantly read it. It anchored to the desk in showing a virtual, in this case, augmented reality tool on top of the desk that can be overlaid with the existing solutions. So they can watch a sequence of steps that shows them exactly what they should be doing while they're looking at the real product. They can see the components, they can see the process. If need be, we can show them an actual video of an operator doing it. In some cases we do, depending on what they needed. We can show them pictures, stagnant, more. But if you're looking around and say, this tweezer's blue and that one's green, how do I know which one to use? Where do I find it? So the system even helps guide them to where these components are. But they can systematically build, and it's showing step by step. This emphasizes an element a lot of people overlook effectively. Digital content. You have the coolest technology, but you're lost without the digital content. You need to, whether it's scanning it, whether it's drawing it, whatever, building digital content. These are empty shell technologies if you don't do it. And when I say building technology, I'll show something here and say, here's an example of something that I use in scanning and building in 3D to actually build my own leg, which is AI enabled. So when you think of things and say, you know what, we don't just talk about it, we practice it. And so these things are all true. But this is a part where people overlook a lot of things. They neglect to put enough emphasis in putting resources or capturing the appropriate content. Your stuff is literally, like I said, empty shells without it. So the remainder of this shows you some more steps around it. There's a huge number. I think it was like 17 MPI steps, and all of them were stacks of material. But in doing that, now you think, if this is going to be used on me as a patient, wouldn't you like to know the precision, the effort has been taken to really show how the quality is being maintained with this? And think about a new operator. We say, what, 50%?
Yeah, 50%
I know
time.
we'll get that on another slide, but yeah.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah. And that's it. And you mentioned it, William. There's what you can see here also for the audience. On the right side, you see the live view, right? It's what the operators can use all the time. And these parts are tiny. Right? There's little diamonds, little parts there. Everything is under the microscope. So you cannot just overlay the typical things you sometimes do in AR. On the left side, you have these on-screen instructions. So you can always have images, videos, wirings, whatever you need. So the interesting thing is there are different operators with different expertise, with the different requirements, and they get different content. That's key. Just not one content. You say, well, you show it in AR and that's it. Not everyone wants to have that. People work differently, right? Some of you guys, they prefer text. Some of you prefer images. Some of you prefer video. So we have to kind of fulfill all of these requirements.
One thing to add to what Dirk just said, the importance, and we get it, and maybe sometimes we get too close to it, is the ways you manage this, the content, the way you set it up. I always tease my wife, I have to hold a map this way. It's like, okay, I'm like a guy who's like, I can see the topographical, I know where I'm at on this. We all have different perspectives. And like Dirk was saying, it's like, maybe I just need to read a document, a process flow. Maybe I'd like to see a video. And what we didn't cover is the whole app actually was integrated using Medtronic's mission statement. So as my CEO comes over and says, hey, Dirk, if you're an operator, what's your mission statement? Well, not only does he have his manufacturing process steps on the tablet, he's got the mission statement, he's got all, and he's got Tommy donning some headset. Well, I know Tommy's on the floor. So incorporating relatable individuals so that people who say they could identify with it. Always trying to demystify this and make it relatable.
Yeah. Well, here's a quick summary before we come to the voice of the customer, because we want to show you that also. Here are a couple of benefits and impacts what we've realized. One of the things is to see here at the bottom, is the combination of content, right? 2D, 3D, images, video, all of that was very, very important, and that was the feedback from the operators. Right? That's not our opinion. That's what the actual users told us. But then also having a possibility to update that content. William said it. There are a lot of things. Medtronic acquired Ttip, that company, right? They had to change a lot of things in the workflows, in the processes. So with a platform, they can easily do that on their own, and they have authoring teams to do that. And the flexibility. Now, you have built that for a training use case. You can use and reuse that content for a service or other manufacturing assembly, whatever you want to do there. And that makes it scalable. And that's, of course, an interesting point that you don't have to start from zero all the time.
Well, it's not a one-shot in that case. Because now, through, like, I look at the expertise you guys provided from helping us with the voice of the customer, doing the UAT, helping us establish a standard that we can now apply for change management, device management. And that even points to a point that sometimes small facilities don't have the resources. To be able to count on an organization that just not one person that I can call and say, hey, Cyrus, Victor, Jason, Jason's somewhere in the crowd, I remember that. But
he disappeared.
To come up there as people and say, hey, I need this, and I don't have to wait. And because it's 24/7, I can call somebody in Germany or in the United States. But thinking about all that, it's not just magic happens here. It takes that infrastructure, but it can be done, like you said, 50% faster.
Yeah.
And we ended up, by the way, 2 weeks ahead of schedule. And it was under budget. So it's magic in that respect, man. It just blew my mind. And that's what led to why we're doing it in Galway, why we're looking to do it in Tempe, why we're doing it to assess things like ventilators and how we virtualize those aspects. All that is been led to because of this. Absolutely.
And the magic, maybe we close the session with that. That's for me magic here, right? What the operator said. Besides the 50% numbers, and that's of course most important for management and for the company. But as said, you cannot change a habit, and you cannot form a habit if you don't convince the users. And that's what they said here. I like the iPad device, and they mean the application because it's better than using a bunch of books. Mm-hmm. And these instructions are books, and if you have to do that every day, I mean that's a completely different story. It will save us so much time. I'm very impressed. This is beautiful. and they rated the application in the first user acceptance test session we had. I guess we got 4.5
and
out
we
of
didn't
5
make
stars.
it easy. We didn't make it
No,
easy.
we didn't make it
picked
easy.
hard people fresh off the floor and like, okay. And I'm telling them as they looked at an iPad, we don't like iPads. It's like, okay, all right, that's fine. We're objective. We're platform agnostic. So exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's also learning, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have something in mind, and of course, glasses are fashion, and everyone wants to try it. But at the end, it comes back to what is most effective. What do you really want to use? And you know, an iPad. Most of us have an iPad or a tablet at home, so we use at least how to use that device, and we don't have to learn the device, the technology, and everything, because it's not about technology. It's intuitive.
The whole thing about ease of use and intuitive use was literally our driving factors.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I like that. So I think we're at the close to the, and I see someone over there getting ready for his questions.
Yeah, I
think
think.
we have another slide you want to address, Dirk?
Well, no, thank you. Congratulations. Is there any question from the audience? Maybe we'll have time just for one.
I'll tell you, like, Werther's if you guys want a prize or something.
Question. Do you have any examples of patient training, patient equipment training? I know this is all your focus.
It is a very good question. And if you look at the thing I hinted at in ventilator, think about during the COVID. You're putting ventilators out in the field. And you said, okay, it might be an operator, it might be a caregiver, it might be in somebody's home. So taking into consideration their needs, their use case. They need a maintenance, change the battery, 100%. We do this in Medtronic for our internal solutions for surgical. We do this for our manufacturing now. So I would say almost it's like our digital content library just for this alone was over 32K. But the amount of content we have, 100% we do have.
Is there a place to find videos of
Yeah, as a matter of fact, feel free to contact us. We can help coordinate anything we can de-identify that might be intellectual property protected, but I'm certain we can share.
We'll be around. We have a booth also here. William is around, so you can find us and see that live.
Just demystifying this, making it really, that's really the key to this. Yes, ma'am.
No, thank you very much. And any other question? Is there one more? Please.
Looking at this option, how many operators did you test it with?
We actually tested it with pretty much every operator because we were trying to at different stages. And so at certain times we would then they were becoming biased because they experienced it and everybody was going to rave about it. So we said, nah, now we got to bring in a new person. So we were always trying, and there's different stages because there's different process stations. So we could always say, okay, now this process station, let's bring these operators. But we try to maintain parallelism to the point where here's some people who weren't using it, here's some that were. And our operators would require 90 builds before they could be released under the old program. They only require about half that to be released under the new. So, numbers of people, well, we have about 17 stations, 27 I think actually was the MPIs. You have multiple shifts. It can get into the order of hundreds. For this is a small facility. If I go to our Swiss and all the others, then I'm talking about thousands. If I go to Galway, seriously, thousands. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. And
Thank you.
Please visit the stands. They are open daily and located in the Mission City lobby, upper level terrace, and Great America lobby.
No,
Then-
it was just a nice slide, but I thought it was
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.